Welcome back to another Wheel Wednesday, where I spin this wheel of prompts given to me by viewers like you, and then I make the prompts into art. Yep. Today's prompt was from BabyBingus, which was Ice and Fire Phoenix fighting. And, well, I, took it very literally. With two birds fighting, made of ice and fire. Crazy, I know. And I did use a reference of, I believe it was two crows fighting, but I did not want the phoenixes to look like the exact same type of bird, so I did flub the heads a bit. And, well, their wings a bit, mostly the fire one's wings, making them more amorphous rather than actually wing-like. But that happens way later. I mean, you can kind of already tell in the sketch, due to, me not sketching any actual feathers, but yeah. I also wasn't really sure how I was going to go about doing the ice phoenix, which is why I started doing it first. I thought of doing an ice sculpture thing, but I wasn't really sure how that would look. So I definitely just went with the flow, I guess. I don't really know how best to describe it, but I just put in random shapes and then did lines following those shapes to try to make it look as much like ice as possible, and make it a little carved like, and not just a solid smooth block of ice or anything. And here I'm blocking out the fire phoenix as well, just so I can get rid of the sketch, because I didn't want those blue lines in my way while I was adding the detail onto the ice one, but I also didn't want to then later have to come back and turn on the sketch to do the fire one. So, I just did it all and then turned off the sketch layer. Plus showing what I wanted to do in front of the ice phoenix from the fire one, doing that early can kind of help. Although it makes it a little awkward if I ever want to do detailing below the fire phoenix, since I'm doing this all in one layer. But I'll just deal with it. Here I'm still just trying to figure out how the heck I'm going to do the ice. And I notice the giant empty space above the ice phoenix and decide, it's going to be attacking with floating ice shards or something. And eventually I also add in some steam because, well, it's fighting fire, and it is made of water. So steam will almost definitely occur unless, the magicness of it being a phoenix counteracts that. But in this case, it is not. And here I'm adding in these darker areas just to show that the ice is slightly transparent and that you would be able to see that dark background color. And then on top of that darkness, I add really bright highlights, trying to make it, again, look more like carved ice. Which I've never really done before to my memory. I've done crystals and stuff, which is similar. And it's kind of how I approached this, and how I've done water in the past. And then just making it more angular. I think it turned out okay. Probably lost the plot in a couple places with these harder lines, but it definitely ended up looking more like a crystal bird rather than a ice bird. But I am not sure how to better show it being ice and not crystal. I mean, there's definitely ways. It would probably involve redoing a lot of it, though. I don't know. I'm not an ice expert. And here, I still wanted to show feathers in the ice. Obviously it's not like actual feathers, and it's more of just giant chunks of ice. But you know, it can fly because magic. And eventually I add in the orange from the fire into the ice, because obviously ice is going to reflect some of that, especially while being melted and then having some water on it, becoming even more reflective. And I also add in a nice cyany blue to the ice, just because I think it looks nice. There's also this almost white that I put on it, just to like really show that it is very bright. And then I also made little tiny white specks to be like they were droplets dropping off of the phoenix's body as it melts. And then there's the steam, and near the very end I add steam onto the little feet of the phoenix, since you know that's in direct contact with the fire phoenix. And here I'm just adding more of those little droplets, trying to show as much as possible that it is slightly melting. And it's obviously not being completely destroyed or anything, but I thought droplets are a nice touch. And eventually I get to the fire phoenix again. I see more shading and brightening up of the steam so it's not so muddy gray looking. And now onto the fire phoenix. I render it the same way I do most fire, with just a base orange color, and then that same orange color with color dodge just put inside of it. And then I also used an overlay red to get those darker reds that you currently see at the end of the wing. But I eventually go back in and put that throughout the phoenix. I also gave the fire phoenix, like, I don't really know how to describe it. I gave it a weird eye. I don't know why I feel the need to point this out, especially since it hasn't appeared yet in the video. But it is definitely not a bird eye. I just kind of put some random shapes in there, I'm gonna be real. And I also, eventually, I think, yes, right now, I add a bunch of little sparks. Just going behind the phoenix. The fire phoenix has sparks, and the ice phoenix has ice chunks and steam. I feel like that the ice phoenix might have, you know, some more interesting powers, but, you know, the fire phoenix is a classic and made of fire. Which I like. You know, I don't know how disproportionate the abilities would be here on who would win, but also you could argue neither, because phoenixes, you know, would just keep coming back. So I guess I don't think about it. I guess I should say that I did orient them so the fire one is on top, because heat rises and, you know, cold stuff goes down. So there is a reason that the fire one is slightly higher. Yeah, but as you can see here, the eyeball on the fire phoenix is kind of just a dark streak. And also its beak is kind of solid, rather than being a beak like the ice ones. And also the fire one is obviously much more abstract, and honestly, kind of more liquidy than the ice one, which is a weird thing to say. But that's how I drew it, so, or at least how I feel I drew it. I tried to add steam to the fire side and decided that it did not look good, so I got rid of it. Anyway, that's about it. Thanks for watching me draw these birds, and thank you BabyBingus for the prompt, and thank you for listening to my rambling for this long. Goodbye, bye, 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 bye.